Most companies think they have a retention problem, but what they actually have is a customer experience problem.
Because your best customers rarely complain. They don't open tickets. They don't leave angry reviews. They just quietly stop buying.
And by the time you notice, it's already too late. So the questions become, where are you actually losing them?
In the moments you're not measuring, the friction you've learned to accept, or the parts of the journey that sit outside of marketing, but ultimately define the entire experience.
In this episode, we're joined by Eli Weiss to break down why retention is fundamentally a CX problem
and what brands need to fix if they want customers to keep coming back.
This is CX After Hours. Let's get into it.
Welcome to CX After Hours, the podcast for CX leaders and operators in retail and e-commerce who are in the trenches, scaling customer experience to drive real growth. This is where we take a step back and talk honestly about the trade-offs, the pressure, and the decisions that shape not just how customers experience your brand, but whether they come back, spend more, and ultimately stay loyal.
Hi, everyone. I'm Guillaume. I'm a third-time entrepreneur, and I spent a decade in San Francisco. And I'm now the founder of YouMyAI that I've been building for the past 3 years.
Amazing. And I'm Anya. I actually started my career in politics. Constituents are definitely customers. But I have spent the majority of my career in D2C, CPG, working, in global CX teams. And now I run an agency called Chow CX, where I work as a fractional CXO across a bunch of different brands.
All right. And we're in New York today. We're in studio, and we're extremely excited and lucky to have Eli Weiss with us. Eli, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes.
In a minute.
Thank you so much for having me. Eli Weiss, before kind of midlife crisising into SaaS, I've spent a decade of my career in various CX roles. So I'm probably the fastest come up from a CX associate making $30,000 a year to CX leader at some of the fastest growing brands. So I've kind of seen the evolution of leading CX as a ticketing solution to CX as a global kind of like, how do we differentiate across competitors? So spent a couple of years, early days at OLIPOP, the beverage brand, then a couple of years in Jones Road Beauty, and have kind of transitioned into this advocacy role at Yotpo, where again, kind of like working on the future of e-com and what that looks like. So it's been like a kind of a crazy decade, but it's been a hell of a ride and a lot of fun. So I'm thrilled to be here.
Crazy decade, yeah. We are so excited to have you. Just like quite an intro here.
Truly, such an intro. And I love the part that you just said about, the transition of, the view of CX from a ticketing sort of cost center to something that really is driving retention. And I was talking to Guillaume a little bit off mic about, I first started reading your newsletters, and just, you've always really been this kind of outspoken advocate of the customer, really kind of like the CX bad boy before other people were really saying what the truth is. And I'm just kind of curious, just to start us off with an interesting question. Have you ever gotten any pushback from that? I just feel as though I came up in a CX era where you just didn't question the kind of...
Yeah. So I guess it would behoove me to go a little bit further back. My background is not a traditional one. I didn't kind of like rise through the ranks and go to an Ivy League school and kind of dedicate my career to being a CX associate. I started in like a non-traditional background, number 2 of 10 children, grew up Orthodox, traveled the world in my early 20s when I should have been in high school and college, got my GED in my early 20s when I started dating somebody who was double majoring, and I was like, wow, I'm a useless piece of trash. I should figure something out. So I got my GED and kind of jumped into it. But CX for me was like the first job I was able to get to. And I was living abroad, took the job in CX, and I was like, wow, this is so insane that this is the lowest paying job that also has no seat around the table when they know all the answers about all the problems. So I'm sitting in this luggage company and they're telling me like, no, we think we have to do X, Y, and Z on the product team. And I say, no, you certainly don't. And they say, no, but I think we do. And I say, okay, but here are 30 customers or 30% of your customers are saying that's not the case. And I think, early on, I saw that there's a massive infrastructure gap on like the knowledge piece that, comes from having CS around the table, but also seeing the evolution of the market, right? Where you're seeing like a VP of CX and you're seeing the evolution of, customer service to CX. And now we're kind of like over the hill on that, where CX is now in another tumultuous point. But speaking from that background, like for me coming into CX was not like, oh, I worked so hard to get here, I better not get someone angry. It's like, I have nothing to lose. Like I just figured this out myself. And if you're, and I think for me early on, it's like, being an average player in a role like CX will not yield you the results to change your life, but being in the 1% or the 5% in CX will be life-changing. And somebody that we both know, Michael Baer, who was like one of the early players that I saw while being early at OLIPOP, seeing this person who's an SVP of CX at Figs, which is one of the, like a generational company, seeing him kind of like rise in the leadership was inspiring, but also like the idea that to be different, you need to be different and you need to show up in a different way. And part of that is also in the rest of my career. It's like every time I made a move, people are like, he did that? That's crazy. Like, so now he's at a beauty company and he's doing retention. What is retention? And now he's at a SaaS company that nobody even likes. Like that makes, right? So I think over time and starting the newsletter, he writes a newsletter now. So every evolution that I've done has kind of been crazy to the outside, and on the inside looking out, all I have is my gut. So there's no kind of like, there's no editorial board for better or for worse. Sometimes I wish there was. So like writing a newsletter to answer your question, the one like pushback. So I wrote a newsletter called 13 Reasons Why. And it was one of the most aggressive newsletters I've ever written about the kind of like the evolution of CX and why people hate working in this field and why it needs to be burned to the ground. And I thought I would get a lot of pushback. And I obviously like, I honestly got so many people saying like, oh my gosh, finally someone's saying it. But that's been like the glorious part of my career is like having, as an introvert, I hate the idea of leaving my house, but having the ability to change a mindset across 25,000 people every week is like, is ungodly. It's like, it's crazy. So
incredible. Like mic drop that. Yeah. I mean, and as someone, shout out Mike Baer, he hired me in my first CX role in the corporate sector, direct to consumer. But yeah, I think as a CX operator who started as a CX associate, and to your point, if you can break out of the 99% and really kind of show up strong, you can build a fabulous, career and really change the function in the industry, I think for the better. But anyway, amazing. We are going to actually pivot to our first of two segments. These are incredibly exciting segments, so make sure to stick around for the next one. In the spirit of this really being a post-work debrief, we're going to do our first segment, which is called The Vent. I like to think of this as, it's officially after hours. We are walking to happy hour. It is time to just, go off about something that is annoying us. And so, Eli, you have 45 seconds to vent about a recent CX frustration or just something in terms of CX that you wish people saw differently. This should be quite easy for you.
Yes. I was saying earlier, as like a middle-aged Jewish man that's always complaining, it's like an easy one. Assuming one or two gin sours and the thing that's been on my mind a lot lately that I can't get rid of is this idea that everyone's automating everything, and that's the core focus is like, how can we automate CX? And we've seen it for a couple of years. I've certainly had my journey kind of like figuring this out. But everyone's talking about whether it's to 60%, 70, 80, 90%, whatever it is, there will always be the remaining 10%. And I think there's limited understanding of how we can make people better at that 10%, right? Like ultimately, think about it from the SaaS side, there's a $150,000, $200,000 contract. You get to the end of it, and it's like, after the person complains, they get a bot, the bot gives them nothing, they go in circles and circles and circles. Now you have the human that gets the hot potato. And that person is overworked, underpaid, probably on a team of 2 that used to be a team of 25 because AI. And now how does that person become better? Like how do we focus on the 10% and make that kind of like hospitality-esque? Like, how do we make sure that think about it in the hotel world where you check into a Hyatt, it used to be you wait at the front desk, they wine and dine you. Now you're checking in at a kiosk. It's a machine. But when shit hits the fan, is that person 10 times better equipped than they were 6 years ago? Probably not. They're probably the last person that's on payroll. And the 10% is something I think about a lot.
So you are seeing this shift happening in CX at the moment, right? So you're seeing this automation ramping up. And the first thought is like, what's going to happen with the last, 10, 20% of tickets that are not going to be automated by the AI? And how do we maintain a strong CX function that's going to be able to deal with those as we keep, I guess, depleting that function, right? That's top of mind at the moment. And do you see, what's the forecast here? How long is it going to, is this going to be, is those 10% going to stay there forever? How do you see that? Or what's the timeline? Do you have prediction there?
I think between 5 and 10% will be there forever. As far as like the humans in an age of endless slop, right? Where everything you're seeing is fake. The videos you're seeing, the ads you're seeing, when you go to a restaurant, do you want to be served by a robot? Probably not. So humans...
The show's not fake though, right? We're real people.
This is a real set. This is a real set. But I do think like over time, humans are craving human anything. And that's why restaurants are full. People are going out and about with friends. And I think over time, you're going to want the best bot in the world to handle 80%, 90%. But when it really, really gets to the end, I don't want the Delta bot to try to help me get a new seat.
Yeah.
And I think we're in this weird phase because bots have been so bad for so long that we're just like, give me a human. No, 95% of the time, I want a great bot because it will help me.
I mean, I think the customer wants a solution to their problem, right? If it's a bot or a human, they want the solution, right? But the thing is, what do we do when the bot cannot actually provide that solution?
The bot will get better and better and better. And I do believe that, but I think there will always be now, will the 5% be the same 5% as it is now? Likely not, but there will always be a small portion that will need to be handled by humans. And I just don't think humans are getting worse at that, not better.
How much of that do you think is because, again, with all of the tool advancements in CX, I think that there has been a real forgetting of the importance of hiring the right people and investing in those people from a people manager perspective. Shout out Emily Volcano, also Mike Bear, associate and hire. But, she talked a lot about the importance of hiring really good people. And, again, that was my first role as a people manager. And she set me up with, I can't remember the company. I think it's called like Life Skills. I don't know, but ton of content and educational, workshops on how to be a good people manager. I
think the persona, the person you're going to hire will be different, right? Yeah. So I think over time, when you think about the generalist versus a specialist, like the CX associate of 10 years ago was the person early in their career, which was open to taking the abuse. It's now evolved massively into specialized killers that will handle the most complex customers. Like when I think about Amanda and Anna on the Yotpo side, these are the smartest e-com strategists, and their job is the 5%. And how do we make sure that they are blown away? And we can automate everything else. We can automate their quarterly business review. We can automate the replies to the boring questions that are easily findable in Q&A or in help desk docs. But it's like when I want to talk to the human, the most high stakes, it's a different human, right? It's not the human that can just get you ask for something and you get back slop. Yeah. Like, my experience as a customer has gotten progressively worse since the advent of AI. As a customer for 90% of brands, when I ask a question, now I get a really fast, sloppy response. In the past, it took 10 hours to get slop. So now you have faster slop, but the slop is not less sloppy most of the time.
About the slop, you say, like on those replies, do you see some brands that are doing this better than others? Because there is a wide variety of automation on how you automate, what tool you use. Like I'm sure you see great stuff. Like, do you have example?
Yes, most of the examples I have are terrible, so I don't want to. I don't want to name them. But I truly think some of the best brands, some of the brands I like the most, have been the most disappointing. And it's hard to know at a point if it's human slop or AI slop, but it's slop. I'll give you an example. A brand I purchase from frequently. I bought 20 pairs of socks. One of the pairs, wore it twice, it ripped. I've spent so much money at this brand. You'd think you'd reach out to them. They would see Zendesk, gorgeous, top 5% customer.
Eli's emailing.
Help them.
VIP customer.
Segment.
VIP segment.
Exactly. Yes.
Ding, ding, ding. Help this guy. Hey, sorry, it's actually 31 days after your purchase. So you're and then I say, hey, I'm the closest thing you'll ever see to a white Karen. a man version of Karen, like I will be a nightmare because I'm not going to take that. There's no way. There's no, sorry, it's there. And I just we keep going back and forth. And I say, I might be the person that asks for a supervisor. And it's just, and after like 2 weeks of this back and forth, we're talking about minimal money. You finally get someone that's like, oh, it's out of policy, but here's like a $10 gift card, right? And the level of mind my French fuckery that happens here to get to this point is not going to get solved with more AI. So
it wasn't French,
right? To the French person here. No, but when you get to this point, you're realizing that if AI will help you decide faster how to act, we'd be better off.
I have a question for you on that front, right? Because if we want AI to actually perform well, right, you want to minimize kind of the leeway you give to the AI. Otherwise, you get like a mess on your CX. And you don't want that. You want the AI to respect your processes, your SOPs. You want the AI to just follow, right? How do we do here between like that leniency and the freeway you want to give to the AI and just like, no, follow my processes, like you cannot go off-road. Like,
so I think like part of this gets back to the 5% or the 10%, right? Yeah. Like when an AI sees that this is the top 1% customer, just fork it and send it to a human. It's 1%. It's the top 1%. So
and we can do that now.
Easily.
I mean,
easily. And I do think the other piece is like the AI tools that are great have a longer implementation time, right? Because by nature, they're pulling all of the data, they're pulling all of they're writing the edge cases on this is where we go off. But when you're taking these out of the box 2-hour implementation, it generally doesn't have the context that you need.
2 hours, yes.
And I mean, Guillaume, I don't know. I just feel like in general, as I've worked across startups, so many just immediately go, let's implement AI. And they don't even have an internal knowledge base. Right. Like there isn't. So I think one, segmentation is incredibly important. Sentiment flagging, the different customer tier, just going right to a human agent. But I also think that brands massively underestimate the amount of work that they should be putting into their current CX systems and platforms before even considering AI.
100%.
The one last thing I'll say on this is if you look at the way most AI tools are pitching their software to brands, the core thing they're pitching is deflection. As a consumer, do you want deflection? No, I want a resolution. Yeah. And deflection most of the time as a consumer, and I know I'm saying this from a consumer point of view, most deflection is because, oh, this is annoying. I'm out. And that's a great resolution for a brand because now they don't have to pay for it. Yeah. There's no refund associated. There's no escalation associated. So when I see those numbers as a CX practitioner, I say, is this deflection because this sucks or is this deflection because it's been resolved? And again, like I hate NPS for that matter, because a lot of customers don't necessarily go and say, oh, that's a 0. They just quietly leave and that's not being tracked. So LTV may be a decent proxy, repurchase rate may be a decent proxy, but NPS is like biased towards like the super excited customers or the super miserable customers, but the quiet leavers don't get tracked. And deflection is actually exactly what it's supposed to do, which is deflect customers over a long period of time.
That brings a question actually that we have here on our notes is like, when we look across the customer journey, right? Where do you see retention? Where can we win on the retention? Where do we see people drop? Like you had some good example here. Do you have other example where a brand can invest time and in processes to try to drive up that retention over time?
So I think most of retention is actually product, and it's boring because a CX practitioner can only surface that, not fix it, right? So a lot of somebody buys a product's great. Apple doesn't need to send you emails every day because the product solves the problem or is like in the zeitgeist. You need a phone, you get the Apple phone. If there's a new phone, they do great marketing, you get the phone. It's not like the consistent barrage of emails. Yeah. D2C brands operate in a different vernacular where it's like, you bought this, but your wallet's still out. Can you buy the next 10 things? So I think over time, brands became really bad at measuring product satisfaction and human behavior to know when they will likely repurchase.
And you wrote something in a newsletter recently about that actually, right? How do you monitor like on the internet, like satisfaction of your customers and how any signal?
I think a lot of it is the things that most brands focus on one of two things, either CS, like put CX people in the corner and expect them to raise a flare loud enough that people will listen, which is like an existential problem. Yeah. The second piece is all the channels that historically didn't matter as much. Example, Reddit on the GEO side, like Yotpo spent a lot of time in GEO on kind of like this new Yotpo Discover tool. How do we make brands show up more and more and more? And over time, we learned that the biggest detractor in terms of showing up is negative Reddit comments. And that is like, I've seen maybe 5% of brands that actually look at Reddit. And the interesting thing, which we can touch on at some point, is like, okay, now you have a bunch of shitty Reddit comments. What do you do? Side note, but Reddit and social, like I think brands spend, they look at their Zendesk and they're gorgeous and that's kind of it.
Yep.
Side question here. Can you recover from that as a brand? Like if you get like bad reviews, bad Reddit, like, you can recover from it?
So I'll give you a good example. David Protein.
Okay.
A phenomenal story. Went from 0 to I don't know how many million in the span of a couple of months. The RX Bar founder, generational story, has had like quite a few stories. I'm not going to share them here, but if you look online, you'll see quite a few stories of like, people said this, rumor has it that, the other, and this and the other. And they have seen that a bunch of Reddit comments have kind of like destroyed some of their stuff, and they were able to engage the high review. Like, so a reviewer, if you are seeing that you have 10,000 5-star reviewers, you can reach out to them and say, hey, I noticed you mentioned in your review, you can send a campaign on Klaviyo. I noticed you mentioned in your review that you actually think that this was great macros wise and the shipping is fantastic. I'll give you a $5 gift card if you say the same thing on this thread. So there are like kind of like gray hat ways to engage with this, but we're in a weird world where it actually matters.
It does matter. And let me tell you, as a CX practitioner, you are looking at Reddit before you purchase. That before I even work with a brand, I'm looking at what people are saying on Reddit, because that's going to tell me, I already know what some of these issues are going to be. And I think Sonos did a really good job they have a really active Reddit that they are, involved in quite highly. And I think, in a time where everything is slop and so much is posturing, brands need to be honest. And I think, again, they can't just, hide in a corner because the public is too educated and we know too much as consumers. So showing up and taking accountability on Reddit, or, again, like that's one step. I also think, exactly to your point, use your CX team to get more positive reviews out there. If your CX agents, AI or human, are able to really, make someone's day, surprise and delight, maybe say, hey, want to comment on this thread for us? We'd really appreciate it. But I think it matters. I think, to your point, a lot of brands do not look at social, but Reddit is a gold mine.
I agree. Yeah.
How do you make the split here? Which team is responsible of that? Is it the CX team? Is it the marketing team? Is it like, how do you see it happening at companies? Like,
generally, the rule is whoever complains less. Like whoever pushes back less.
I was like, I'm as a CX person. I was like, I also think, again, CX, something that Eli has done a really great job trying to break is this whole CX is the kids' table, just a cost center. That being said, I think as a CX person, you still spend a majority of your time gathering ammo. And so let me tell you, I'm screenshotting everything on Reddit, putting it in a deck and calling other stakeholders out, because CX has to absorb, and actually this is one of our questions, CX often absorbs the flaws of a product or the flaws in a fulfillment system or shipping. It has to go back to the stakeholders who actually own those functions. It can't just be on CX. But that actually leads to a great question that I have for you. How do you know when CX has become a safety net for, again, these broken functions within an organization? And how do you, what's your first step for trying to change the narrative there?
I think I learned this the hard way throughout my career, less so in the brands that I've worked with and more so in the brands that I've kind of consulted with. The brands that I've worked with, like after my first job, I knew immediately that I would only work for brands that are very front facing about their CX ideology and really want to make CX like a value add and not just put it in the corner. And I've said no to most jobs that I was like, I got a weird feeling that they are willing to pay a lot, but they just don't really, they want CX, they want somebody to quiet the noise. And quieting the noise is something I'm good at because I take the cushion, not because the noise is going away. And over time, you learn that the brands that want to hear the noise are the brands that will solve the noise. And I think over time, there will be a huge divide between the brands that want to hear the noise to fix the noise and the brands that don't. And I don't have a magic answer. I think most of the brands that don't want to hear the noise end up getting burnt when the fire hits them. And I've seen that over and over and over again where it's like, nah, just shut up. Just leave me alone. Like, I'll just build better product. And eventually, like, there was a brand that I spoke to years ago and they were like, nah, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. And then I saw like on some Facebook group, I saw them like, oh my God, I'm so sorry to the community, blah, 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 about something I flagged 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It always catches up to you. There's no way it won't. You have customers that are purchasing your product every single day. They're all getting burned by the same issues, whether it's the missed expectation, the product that looks nothing like it, the slop on your page. Eventually you get burnt. And it's a question of, will you hear it now or will you hear it 2 years? And then 2 years later, you lost half the revenue you could have gotten.
I have a startup analogy here. At Y Combinator, we say, you need to talk to your customer, like talk to your customer, talk to your customer. This is the most important thing here. Like, that's where you hear, the real thing, the value you provide. And here, if you cut, the relationship with the customer, you don't hear it. So you cannot improve.
Yeah.
Let's take a short break, a couple-minute break, and we'll be back in studio in a minute.
Still to come in this episode.
But CX will be back to the glory days of you deliver fantastic experiences and everything else the bots do. And I'm excited about that from both a customer and a practitioner.
And we're officially back. It's CX After Hours, and we have our fabulous guest, Eli Weiss, here in studio.
Second segment of the show for you, Eli, and we call it the 10% fix. So tell us about something practical, low effort improvement that you think is really going to move the needle immediately. Let's say you're new in CX, you arrive.
The unfortunate answer is that it's a little bit more than 10% and it's pretty boring. But I think it's so important, right? It's like coming into a new brand, the founders, the executive team, the marketers will all tell you everything you need to know. And turns out it's all good. It's just not what you really need to know. And what you really need to know is what you said earlier, is talking to your customers, having a bunch of calls. Like, I remember joining Jones Road and it's, a celebrity backed. I mean, Bobby Brown is one of the most legendary creators, makeup artists, entrepreneurs to ever do it. And, I got on 30 plus Zoom calls with customers and we learned more about who our customer is and what they're interested than I ever thought, than Bobby ever thought. So, you're thinking most of your customers are probably Bobby fans from the old days, but turns out it's like a 30-something-year-old race car driver that wants something easy as she walks out of the house, a young mom who wants to just feel herself without a ton of extra makeup. Like, we learned so many different avatars, personas, all of that. So that's number one. And number two is actually audit it as a customer and go through the phase and go on the website and try to find the product and do it on mobile because everyone's optimizing for desktop. It's the boring things. But when you see that, go through the returns policy, right? Like, most returns is such a boring part of the business, but so badly done 90% of the time. Returns, refunds, credits, exchanges, like all that stuff when the energy's high and when you have potential to either win them or burn them, those are the quote unquote 10% boring things that most brands can immediately increase LTV by focusing on.
Okay, returns, refunds, credits, all of these things are both love language words for CX people and nightmares for CFOs and finance people.
Yep.
The reality is 99.99% of the time, if you're in CX and you're going to be issuing a refund, a discount, it is because something along the customer journey went wrong. That is the company's fault. It is the brand's fault. We are doing it as a make good. That being said, that can be a really hard thing, to get approval on internally. Like, how have you gone about doing that? How have you gone about, advocating for the customer when budgets tighten, basically?
So I think this is like a nuanced opinion that will probably anger some people and excite some others. I'm more on the CFO side over time, and I'll tell you why.
Over time. You change your mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So as I grew as a leader and as I sat closer and closer to the bottom line of the business, I learned that these are tools. Refunds, returns, exchanges are all tools, and these are tools that can make the money for the company or lose the money for the company, but can also win the customer, lose the customer. more often than not, like a CX person that's just starting out is looking to shirk the responsibility from themselves and say, this is the business's fault, full refund. And over time, you miss out on the core thing here, which is humans want to be acknowledged, responded to, taken care of. And sometimes a refund is an easy way to get out of it. When I say it, I mean, take accountability, take responsibility, and try to solve the problem to the best way the customer wants. For example, I'll give you a very concrete example. I was at a luggage company years late on the product. People said, well, we want a refund. And then when you offer them, like these were Kickstarter people, they want the product, and you offer them instead of the refund. Would it be helpful if I spent 20 minutes and walked you through the next 6 months plan and showed you what we did in the last 6 months and give you a tour of the facility and show you? And almost everyone said, sure, let's do it. And they were happier, and they ended up buying the second product. So I think it's understanding what they really want. The reason why people ask for a refund is because they lost trust in you. They wanted the product to begin with. So if the product is terrible and now they're like, I don't want the product, telling them, oh, here's a credit to buy something else, garbage.
Yeah.
With the socks example, just send me a new pair of socks and apologize. Don't give me like a $10 refund on my socks and now I buy another pair of socks and I hate you just as much.
Yeah.
So I think it's often a shirking of responsibility of actually doing the work of understanding what the consumer wants on both sides. So on the CFO side too, it's like, you're saying don't give them a refund because you think that'll lose your bottom line. But if you understood that giving the refund can actually help the customer come back and increase the LTV, you'd 100% give the refund because that's you investing in getting the customer back. So I think there's on both sides, it's too nuanced. But even as a CX leader, I want people to take the accountability of making that decision and giving them the leeway of, if you make that decision over time, I want to see it's the right one.
Yeah.
But don't just like, I hate policy in general. I'm like, I hate policy because I think policy is a way of saying we don't have the courage and the ability to make the right decision. So we're just saying, here's a rule for everyone. And I think over time, when we hire less people, but better people, and they do more of the work and the robots will have the accountability and the decision-making too, it'll get better and the customer experience will be better with robots over time.
And do you think the brands are ready for that, to give more leeway to the AI to like, okay.
No, I think
that's human.
I think it'll take time, but I think a bot in 30 seconds can read every single email, go through all the order history. What humans are doing based on gut and are often wrong, bots have all of the context they need, and the more context you give, the better it is. But they have the context to know, can I forecast this to be a loss in the books or to make more money over time? And I think bots will be really good at that. Now, the most high stakes should go to humans. See, humans should get on a call. Like if you were a CX leader and you have 5 minutes, you have 5 minutes in your day to do the two most high impact things. Are you rummaging through tickets like a chipmunk? Probably not. You're probably calling your top 2 customers. So I think over time, that's what the CX job will be. It will be the most high leverage things over and over and over. And if you tell me you have one thing you can do today, it's your last day at this job, what would you do? That's what you do every single day.
And how do you, so I think AI can do this, right? If you, I mean, as you said, AI is going to get the, as the data, if it has the right guidance, it can make that call. But like, how do you, but to be able to do this, the brand had to decide to do that, right? Is there any piece of data, anything how do you advocate for that and go to the CFO and say, well, we're going to change this policy, we're going to be more lenient there because like we think it's going to increase the bottom line? And
I think most of these decisions today, we're thinking of like, what are the things you need to say to get someone to agree? But over time, what we know about humans is they're fairly rational if they understand everything that's at stake. And every positive conversation I've had with the CFO was somebody that over time learned to trust me, and I learned to trust them, and we know that we have the same common, like, he has different short-term goals than I do, but long-term our goals are the same, and we trust each other. If he says it's a bad decision, I trust him. And I think that's like mission number 1 is making sure you're on the same page. And mission number 2 is like giving each other a little bit of leeway. It's the same thing with the bots, ironically, right? Yeah. When I took on AI in the CX world, it was very slow. I'm not a moron. I'm not going to go from 0 to 100% because somebody on a podcast said it's the right thing. Like, that's just not how I'm going to decide with my customers. But I'll do 5% and I'll try to do 10%. And I'll first do 10% that are literally people asking what the return policy is. And then over time, I'll raise the stakes. But I think when you develop like human relationships with people in the age of AI, those will be trustworthy.
Are you afraid about, AI taking more volume here, that you lose some, voice from the customer and you lose contact and you lose like insight that you used to have?
I think over, the period in the last 15 years, it went from, wait, is this a bot? To actually it started with, this is a bot and it's a terrible bot. And then over time, is this a bot? I think over time, we'll know it's 100% a bot, but it's amazing.
Yes.
If you give me the opportunity to talk to a Delta bot that can actually rebook my flight versus a human, give me the bot. Give me the bot every time. Right. So I think the reason why we hate bots is because they've been awful.
Yep.
And I wait on a call for 45 minutes to talk to a bot that can't help. It's worse to wait 45 minutes to talk to a human that can't help. But I think over time, when we're understanding what the expectation is, like the bot can do X, Y, and Z. Are you okay with the bot? A good example of this is Wayfair. If you've ever purchased something and tried to go through the return policy, you'll submit the photos, you'll do everything, and it'll say, do you want 20% refund back to your card, or do you want to send back the item? And it's just giving you optionality. And I say, this is the least terrible of all the options. And if it's that or calling and waiting on the phone for an hour, I'm going to choose that.
Yeah.
That's what bots will be. And then humans, you will know when it's a human problem or a bot problem. And I want to talk to humans. Example, if I book an Airbnb and you cancel at the last second and I can't find anything else and I know the bot can't help me, that's the 1%. And I want that agent to be paid $180,000 a year to be exceptional at their job, to be like the hospitality equivalent of, the Shake Shack story, of like the Danny Meyer, of like, give me the best experience in the world, make $250. I don't care. You're the rainmaker. You're the one person that can help me. And that's what I think CX will be. And the CX practitioners that are the best in the world will be amazing at it. The rest of the people will find different jobs in a different industry, but CX will be back to the glory days of you deliver fantastic experiences and everything else the bots do. And I'm excited about that from both a customer and a practitioner.
I mean, I think that's going to really resonate with a lot of our listeners here.
Yes.
Pushing back CX to where it should be.
The best in the world at CX will continue to be the best in the world at CX, and they will have the most impactful moments of their life every single day. Think about the best CX experience you've had as a practitioner, the best refund story, save story, make somebody from hate your brand to love your brand. Imagine you can just do that instead of answering the 75th email about the shipping policy or saying no to some sort of stupid claim for the 50th time. Like that's the future. It's the future of all jobs. When you talk to software engineers that are switching their job, they're like, okay, I'm glad that 90% of my work is done. So now I can use my brain to think, what other crazy ideas can I build? Can I build 10 things at once and see which one I like the most versus coding for 10 days to get one, potential product out?
I can confirm that. Yeah. Things have changed for the past 6 months. Yeah.
I think it's the future of all jobs, and it's exciting.
Yeah.
I agree. And I think something that you said, again, talking about a good bot experience is, at the end of the day, customers who reach out to support want fast and accurate answers, responses. It does not matter, again, if your bot is good and it's able to deliver what, the customer needs, that's amazing. But again, I think we talked about so many brands just lack the infrastructure and do it way too fast. So AI is a gift for CX teams. Like it really is. I 100% agree with you. I think, hiring those exceptional CX agents is a larger part of the job now, because to your point, whether it's someone who's deeply specialized in a specific area or just, again, someone who you can tell from the interview has, a background in a variety of things, product or, project management, are they able to, step up and lead other portions of the CX function, not just be an agent. I think those sort of dynamic people are not only going to thrive in kind of the new landscape, but they're really the most kind of valuable creative types that you can add to your team and organization.
I couldn't agree more. I think the glory days are coming. And I if you as a consumer use any of these bots, I mean, from the largest providers to the smallest one, most are still bad. And I think over time you're seeing that we are so early in how good this can get. Imagine the context that you as a CX person know about your customer. Imagine that can all be flagged. Imagine I jump on a brand's website and I say, hey, the sock I bought ripped after one wash. And it says, thanks for coming back for your 35th purchase. I've already replaced it. It's in the mail.
We will never forget the sock incident.
The sock incident, the sock incident of 2026 will live on forever. But I think the point that I keep trying to get to is over time, think about how many back and forths I went, 20 emails. Yep. You know how much time and energy it costed them? And I was a pain in the ass over and over and over with a good bot.
Yeah.
30 seconds.
So it seems like you're extremely positive about the outlook of the industry here.
Yeah,
like,
that's changed.
Okay, that
It's
changed.
been an evolution.
Okay.
I love that.
Okay.
It's the new me. It's positive, Eli. But
Wow.
I think what's exciting for me is, as a consumer, I've come into CX in the mind of a consumer. I started this job because I'm an awful consumer. Like, I have such high standards, and if I'm spending my hard-earned money, I want it to be great. And over time, like, I remember being 14 years old, calling the shoe company that I bought shoes from, and I'm just like, after me yelling back and forth, I was like, can I just tell you what I want you to tell me so I can hang up and feel better? As a 14-year-old. And I'm like, I'll tell you what to say. Say, I am so sorry that your shoe ripped after 2 weeks of wearing it. This is not what you should be expecting. Here's a discount for your next pair.
Yep.
Instead of saying, well, we are so...
Did you get it?
Yes.
The discount for next
Yes,
pair.
I was a nightmare.
Good.
I was a nightmare customer, but that's my entrance into CX was, this is like, customers are telling you what they want. So I think as a consumer, it feels like this could be really good. If I can get the outcome without the bullshit back and forth, that's a phenomenal outcome. And as a CX person, imagine you can just, like I said, focus on the best part of your job over and over and over. Sign me up.
Yeah.
Put me in, coach. Yeah.
I feel like a theme from this entire conversation is really courage. Courage for brands to be able to own mistakes and again, I don't know why brands don't just actually turn those mistakes into marketing material, because that's such a great story and potential retention opportunity as well. But also courage from a CX agent's perspective of, one, you have more power than you think you do. Think creatively. And from a CX leader's perspective, have the courage to demand a seat at the table, because you really are able to impact far more than I think you might think you will. Yeah.
Right on. And I think the glory days of today, or the best brands in the world, are community and human focused. Yes. Like when you think about Rode, for example, I mean, you think about some of the most generationally successful brands have been community focused and people first. And I think more and more and more, that's what people are coming to expect from brands. But I think even as a consumer, like the idea of a brand that cares, that is a human feeling brand, will matter in the age of slop. That's
a great way to end the show here.
Yes.
Eli, thank you so much. There was this optimistic view on the future was great. And how
who's the next guest? Does it go downhill from here?
It's just going to keep getting better. I mean, we started strong. But just how can people follow you online?
Yes. I'm chronically online, hopefully less in the future. I keep saying, like, you'll know if I succeed if you never see me online again. But Eli Weiss, ELIWEI with an extra S, so it's SSS. LinkedIn, Twitter, eliweiss.com for the newsletter. And
you have a newsletter, right? You post regularly.
Yeah.
One came out this morning. Shout out.
Everyone should go and subscribe.
Thank you so much. Yes. Also, kind of like, you'll know when I made it when you don't see me ever again.
Hopefully not yet.
No.
Yeah. Stay online for a little bit for us, please.
A little bit, yeah.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the show. And if you did like it, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Share it with your friend, your fellow CX leaders. The goal is for you to come back for the next episode. And thank you for listening. We'll see you around.